Don't be jealous, honey. Your brothers worked so hard for this. Mom's voice cracked through the living room like a glass splitting in half. The Christmas tree lights blinked behind her, red, green, gold, mocking me in rhythm. Dad was smiling, camera in hand. My brother stood beside the fireplace, pretending to look humble while holding a golden key. The whole family clapped as Dad announced, a fully furnished downtown apartment, for my successful son. The room roared with pride. Except me. I just stood there with a half-eaten ginger cookie, my throat burning with sugar and silence. Hi everyone, my name is Claire Henderson, I'm 28. And if you think you know how this story ends, stay tuned. Because what looked like their perfect Christmas gift turned into my revelation. Do you ever feel invisible in your own home? Like a ghost haunting a party you paid for? I'd helped Dad file every mortgage document that made that apartment possible. The spreadsheets. The signatures. Even the home inspection I drove 3 hours to attend while my brother was on a ski trip. But today I was the audience. After the applause faded, Mom reached into her bag and said, "And for you, Claire, we didn't forget." She handed me a folded envelope. The paper smelled like perfume and paper cuts. Sharp, familiar. Dad nodded. "Open it, sweetheart." Everyone leaned forward. I unfolded it, expecting a card, maybe a check. Instead, 4 words in Dad's handwriting. "You're on your own now." The laughter died. Even my brother's grin froze mid-photo. For a second, all I could hear was the hum of the Christmas lights and the hiss of the fireplace. I looked at Mom. "Is this a joke?" She sighed. "You're 30 soon, Claire. We think it's time you learned independence." My brother muttered, "About time." That's when something inside me cracked. Not loud, not visible, but deep. Because independence wasn't what they were giving me. They were giving me distance. And they had no idea what I was about to give back. The rest of the night played out like a theater I never auditioned for. Mom poured champagne. Dad made a toast to new beginnings. My brother winked at me, the key to his apartment glinting between his fingers like a tiny crown. I sat still, the letter in my lap, edges digging into my skin. Every joke, every camera flash felt like static crawling under my skin. I wanted to speak, God I did, but years of being the understanding daughter glued my lips shut. When everyone moved to the dining table, I slipped into the kitchen. The smell of roasted ham and cinnamon felt wrong, too sweet for betrayal. That's when I noticed the gift tags lined up on the counter. From Claire, to Dad, to Mom, to Ethan. Every one of their presents was from me. Not one from them bore my name. It hit like cold air on wet skin. How long I'd been financing my own invisibility. I leaned against the fridge, listening to their laughter echo down the hall. Dad's booming pride. Mom's delicate giggle. Ethan's self-satisfied drawl. And somewhere beneath it, a quiet hum of my own heartbeat whispering never again. I walked back into the living room and saw Ethan scrolling through his phone, already posting photos. Dreams come true. Grateful for the best family ever. My family. The caption burned more than the words in that letter. I picked up the discarded wrapping paper, folded it neatly and said softly, "Congratulations, Ethan. You got your dream apartment." He smiled smug. "Guess it pays to be the favorite." I met his eyes. "Calm. Steady." "Oh, it does," I said. "And sometimes it pays back." He laughed, thinking I meant nothing by it. But I wasn't joking. Because somewhere in my mind a plan was already forming. Quiet, deliberate, like a match waiting to be struck. That night I couldn't sleep. The snow outside fell in thick, silent sheets, the kind that swallows sound and light at once. I lay awake in my childhood room, staring at the ceiling where fairy lights used to hang before Mom said they looked childish. The folded letter sat on my nightstand. Those 4 words, "You're on your own now," felt less like advice, more like exile. At 3 a.m. I got up. The house was quiet except for the low groan of the heater. I walked to the living room, still smelling of cinnamon and champagne, and stood before the fireplace where Ethan had posed earlier. His photo frame already sat on the mantel, a family picture from that night. I wasn't in it. I laughed under my breath. It wasn't bitterness, it was realization. That's when I noticed something on the side table. Dad's leather folder. He'd used it earlier to show Ethan the apartment documents. I opened it. Inside were property files, bank slips, insurance statements, all signed by me as the witness. Witness. That word stung. I flipped through one page after another until I found the final one. the apartment lease. Ethan's name in bold print, Dad's signature below, and my handwriting on the line that said co-signer. It wasn't just a gift. They'd used my credit, my financial history, to secure the property. The fully furnished apartment was half in my name. I froze, realizing they hadn't made me independent. They'd made me responsible. The next morning I didn't sit for breakfast. I told Mom I was heading to the city to clear my head. She kissed my cheek, pretending not to notice my packed bag. As I walked out, Ethan called after me, "Don't forget to send my rent reminder when it's due, sis." I smiled back at him, calm as ice. "Oh, I won't." Because by then I knew, the next reminder he got from me wouldn't be about rent. It would be about reality. The drive to the city felt like shedding an old skin. The snow turned into slush on the highway, the radio mumbled Christmas songs I couldn't stand, and my phone buzzed with family texts I didn't open. I just kept driving, until the skyline appeared like a line between two lives. When I reached Ethan's new apartment, the building still smelled of fresh paint and privilege. The concierge smiled at me politely, assuming I was visiting family. I didn't correct him. I simply said, "Claire Henderson, co-owner." His eyebrows lifted, but he handed me the keys. The apartment was pristine, floor-to-ceiling windows, polished marble, everything designed to look expensive but soulless. Boxes still lined the hallway with Ethan's stuff, scrawled across them. I walked room to room, touching the things I'd unknowingly paid for. I sat on the couch and stared out the window at the city lights. I could hear my heartbeat syncing with the hum of the refrigerator. Steady, deliberate. That's when I opened my laptop. I pulled up the lease file from my email, my digital signature shining on every page. My name gave me rights they'd forgotten existed. And rights, when used correctly, could turn into leverage. I sent 2 emails. One to the property management office requesting an update on the payment schedule, and another to the insurance company, transferring primary billing to Ethan's account. By morning he'd receive a notification that his gift came with grown-up terms. Rent, maintenance, and insurance. All his responsibility now. Before leaving, I placed the folded letter on the counter. The same one Dad had given me. I scribbled a line underneath in black ink. "You're on your own too." I closed the door softly behind me, no dramatic exit, no speech. Just quiet steps on new snow. Halfway down the hallway my phone pinged. A message from Ethan. "What did you do?" I smiled, slipped the phone into my coat pocket and whispered to the empty corridor. "Learned independence, remember?" By the next morning, chaos had already started unraveling. My phone lit up with calls from Dad, Mom, Ethan, all ignored. Then came the text. "Dad, what on earth did you do to the apartment account?" "Mom, Claire, this is not mature." "Ethan, undo it. Now." I smiled into my coffee, watching the snow melt on my balcony. Independence, it turned out, had a delicious aftertaste. Hours later, I got an email from the property office confirming the billing change and notifying both parties. Both parties. That meant the truth had landed exactly where I wanted it. In front of Ethan's pride. That evening Mom called again. I finally answered. "Claire, your father is furious," she hissed. "You're making things difficult for your brother." I stayed calm. "No, Mom. I'm just giving him what you said I needed, independence." Her silence stretched thin. "Don't twist our words. Then maybe stop tying them around my throat." I hung up before she could respond. By nightfall, Ethan showed up at my apartment. Unannounced, face red, voice loud. "You humiliated me," he barked. "The landlord called, they said you co-own the place. Do you realize how that makes me look?" "Like someone who didn't read the paperwork," I said softly. He slammed his hand against the counter. "You're ruining everything." "No," I replied, stepping closer. "I'm just letting reality ruin your fantasy." He stared at me, really stared, as if seeing me for the first time. The quiet one. The helper. The background character he never thought twice about. Now the background was speaking. He left without another word, the door slamming hard enough to shake the walls. And yet I felt peaceful. Because for once I wasn't the one cleaning up the mess. I was just watching it unfold, calmly, deliberately, like the ending of a movie I already knew by heart. The next few days were quiet. The kind of silence that buzzes under your skin. No one from my family called, not even Mom. But I didn't need to hear their voices to know what was happening. The silence itself was the story. Then one morning an email arrived from Dad's accountant, copied to both me and Ethan. It was short, factual, and perfect. Due to the co-signer's standing, the apartment remains a shared legal responsibility. Any payment default will affect both credit scores. Please coordinate accordingly. I could almost see Ethan's face through the screen. The panic, the disbelief. That's when I knew the tide had finally turned. Later that afternoon I stopped by Dad's office. He looked older somehow, smaller behind his mahogany desk. "Claire," he sighed, "you're making this unnecessarily hard." "No, Dad," I said, steady calm. "You made it easy when you wrote those 4 words." He rubbed his temples. "It was meant to push you to stand on your own 2 feet. And now I am. Isn't that what you wanted?" He didn't answer. Before leaving, I placed another envelope on his desk, not out of spite but clarity. Inside was a notarized document transferring my portion of the apartment fully to Ethan, in exchange for the release of my co-signer liability. And attached, a separate check, the full reimbursement for the portion of my savings they'd used in the deal. I wasn't asking for approval anymore. I was drawing boundaries. "Why are you doing this?" Dad asked quietly. I looked him in the eyes. "Because I want peace. But peace isn't free." As I walked out, I saw Mom waiting in the lobby. She opened her mouth to speak, then stopped. For the first time in years, she didn't have a script ready. When I got back to my car, the world outside looked exactly the same. Winter sun, slush on the road, yet something inside me had shifted. This time I wasn't driving away from home. I was driving toward myself. The following week everything began to unravel, not for me but for them. Ethan called one morning, voice trembling with the politeness people use when they're desperate but trying not to sound it. "Hey Claire, listen, I know things got weird. Dad's been stressed and..." I cut him off gently. "Is this about the rent notice or the insurance premium?" Silence. Then a sigh. "Both." I could almost hear him pacing on the other end, still trying to balance ego and need. "You've always been the responsible one," he said. "Can't we just fix this?" For years that sentence had been my weakness. But not this time. "I already fixed it," I said. "You're free from my credit. That apartment is yours, fully. Congratulations." He hesitated. "So that's it." "That's it," I said. "You're on your own now." When I hung up, I felt it. The echo of those same words once used to humiliate me now landing as liberation. That weekend, Dad hosted another family dinner. But this time, there was no invitation for me. I didn't mind. Instead, I poured a glass of wine, opened my balcony doors and let the cold air hit my face. Then my phone buzzed again, a message from Mom. "Your brother's having trouble keeping up with payments. Maybe talk to him." I stared at the screen, then typed back slowly. "He's learning independence. Isn't that what we all wanted?" For a long time she didn't reply. And when she finally did, it wasn't words. Just a single photo. Me years ago at Ethan's graduation. Holding his flowers, smiling like the proud sister I used to be. I looked at that younger version of me, naive, loyal, invisible, and whispered. She finally got tired. The snow outside began to fall again, soft and endless. But this time it didn't feel cold. It felt cleansing. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't loud. It's living in quiet clarity while they struggle to understand the silence. A few weeks later, Christmas decorations started disappearing from windows across the city. The lights dimmed, the cheer faded, and life returned to its usual gray rhythm. But for me, something stayed illuminated, an odd, calm glow that came from letting go. I hadn't spoken to my family since that last message. Not out of anger anymore, just acceptance. The calls stopped. The guilt trips ended. And in their silence, I found peace loud enough to fill every corner of my apartment. One evening as I was closing my laptop after a late shift, a knock came at my door. Slow, hesitant. When I opened it, Ethan stood there. No confidence this time. Just a man holding an eviction notice and a folder of unpaid bills. His voice was small. "Claire, I messed up. I can't do this alone." I didn't gloat. I didn't lecture. I just studied him, the same brother who once smirked as I read that letter out loud. I stepped aside and said, "Come in." He froze, surprised. "I'm not here to fix it for you," I continued. "But maybe I can teach you what I had to learn the hard way, that independence isn't punishment. It's power." He nodded, shame flickering behind his eyes. Dad shouldn't have. Dad did what he knew, I said softly. And so did I. We sat quietly for a long time, no more accusations, no defense. Just the sound of snow hitting the window, the same sound I'd heard the night everything changed. Before he left, he turned back and whispered, "I didn't know you had this in you." I smiled faintly. Neither did I. When the door closed, I stood there a moment, the folded letter still pinned on my fridge like a relic. But this time I didn't see pain in those 4 words. I saw freedom. Because that letter wasn't the end of something. It was the beginning of who I became. And this Christmas, for the first time, I didn't need to be invited home. I already was.